great. I feel really good because I didn't really know if the show was going to work. I took a lot of risks, and so did everybody around me, but we all pulled together and it is working. The audiences are standing up at the end and cheering, and I feel throughout the show that they really get pulled into it, which is what I wanted. I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. I always look at and grasp the positive side of things, and maybe that's a romantic way of looking at life. I don't know, probably. I'm easily pleased by the world. Most things I look at, most things I see a good side in them, and I enjoy quite simple things. It doesn't take a lot to please me. The only thing that doesn't please me often is myself, that I'm not doing things perfectly or the way that I want them. So I'm probably my own worst enemy in that way. Crumbles to the ground, though we refuse to see. Dust in the wind. All we are is dust in the wind. What you try and create, if you're very involved in the creation of your concerts, which I like to be there right from the beginning, they of course capture parts of your imagination in that show. You try and bring that as much as you can to light, and so they see a part of you through your performances. And I think obviously when you're singing songs, be they about love or relationships or breakups or the world or whatever the song is about, people see your thoughts through that song. So I think that actually audiences, if you're prepared to give a lot of your soul through your music, audiences pick up a lot from you. Don't hang on, nothing lasts forever but the end of the sky. It slips away. I like to feel that the voice is just a part of the music, but I've never been that keen on the voice being the big thing. I love it to be part of the music, because as I said, I love instrumental pieces and things being very rounded, and the actual in the way of the music being the most important thing. But it doesn't really work that way. At the end of the day, when you put a voice to music, unless you're doing a vocalise normally, which is just ooh, or it's a choir sound, the voice does take over. The human voice, is something about it which people immediately tune into. It's been like that since we've known. What I've often found is that if a composer or a writer has actually originally written the song in Spanish or in French, or they're Italian, or when I've transposed the lyrics into English and sung English lyrics to those pieces, you usually completely lose the essence and the feel of the piece. So I tend to always sing all these pieces in their original language, and somehow at that point the piece blossoms, because it's all part of it, the feeling of it, the essence of it. I know when I did Time to Say Goodbye, I mean, it's a piece really that I would never want to sort of to do in English, because when I have tried it in English, it just loses something. It's meant to have that rich Italian fluid feel to it. It's all part of the song. Actually, language and lyrics are far more important in music if they are written to have lyrics than people actually realize. It's sad to me, the dreams he gave, that voice which calls to me, Phantom songs, they were, at the time that they were written specifically for my voice. And actually to have a modern day composer and a well-known composer and a very experienced composer write for your voice is like, it's an amazing thing, because normally for singers they're having to sing the Puccinis or the Gershwins, and all these composers aren't there and can't give you their knowledge of how they see the song, and they weren't written for your voice, for our voices, so we're having to try and use our imagination. But when you actually get songs written for you, it is, by these composers, it's such a gift. And I always find people say, you know, don't you get bored of having to sing the Lloyd Webber parts so often because you've been doing them for years? I said, no, I don't. It always, every time I do it, if I'm singing it well, I get a really beautiful emotion from it, because I know it's mine, and it was, and it's was written for this voice. So it's a gift. One of the pieces I normally do is a piece called Music of the Night, which actually ended up as a song for the Phantom. But originally the song was written for me by Andrew when we were first together. And at that time it was called Married Man, and Trevor Nunn, the director of this, he actually wrote the lyrics, and it was another thing completely. But I think that Andrew felt at the time that this song was too good not to use up for Phantom of the Opera, so it ended up as the song that the Phantom actually sang for Christine. But I always like to sing it myself, because again it was crafted for my voice, although ended up as really a tenor song. There's a part in the show where I said, okay, we need to create a piece here or a moment where it looks as if we're underwater. How are we going to do this? And I thought, and I said, well, you know, I always enjoy flying, because the way of flying with the wires and kind of Peter Pan flying, if you like, and it seemed that was the best way to create this underwater world of everything being very, very fluid, and as if you're nowhere in a way. And so everybody at first said, no, we can't do that. It's going to be impossible. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be expensive. Well, I said, no, we've got to do it. And actually, in many ways, it's probably one of the most spectacular parts of the concert, is the underwater scene. It was actually that doing this song wasn't at the beginning my choice. It was my producer, Frank Peterson, who said, listen, you know, this song is great. And he said, actually sung by a soprano, because I know that Celine Dion was very well known for doing it. He said, I think it would give it a completely different feeling, and I think you should try it. You might be surprised. So I said, okay, but I really do want to do it in Italian, because I think it's the most fluid language for it. So we did it, and we took away really any kind of beats, and we did it just with full orchestra. And at the end of recording it, I said, you're right, it works really well for a soprano. And actually the way it's written is brilliant for a soprano, the way it steps up. It's a very, very well crafted piece of music for the human voice. So it ended up in my concert, and I never thought that would happen.